Welcome to Real Estate Business Planning for 2024. It is my pleasure to help you take a good look at the 2024 opportunity. This is a follow up to the top 15 sources of business in residential real estate for 2024. So if you haven't already watched that important class, you might want to go back and kind of watch that first before we get into the nitty gritty of how to build a residential real estate business plan. It is your move. NAR undoubtedly milks millions and millions and trillions of dollars out of residential real estate agents all over the country. And they do that in the form of National Association of Realtor dues and MLS dues. And even NAR projected that in this tighter market transitioning to 2024, they projected a third of all realtors would quit the business. But so far, about 60,000 realtors have quit as per their numbers. How many more will quit in 2024 and what your future holds probably comes down to what you do every single day. We are going to be offering you some easy to use templates that you can use to amass a large listing inventory. We're going to give you some more short training tutorials, and you can participate in our 3, 6, or 9 week coaching sessions, all free from any charge. Of course, today's business planning guide, the technology offered, and a free list of REO asset managers is available to our Agents in Action members. There is no fee whatsoever for Agents in Action. We are sponsored by mortgage companies, title companies, and real estate builders all across the country. The evidence has certainly piled up in the last 50 years. Harvard did studies in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that I'm going to share with you today. The top 1% of real estate professionals earning well above $1 million a year with your same real estate license. What are they doing that's different than you? Stephen Covey's Habits of Highly Effective People and beginning with the end in mind. You've got evidence from the turn of the uh, revolution back in the 1700s where Ben Franklin and his boys wrote out their goals. And really, virtually everyone that you know that's more successful than you will tell you that there's this one thing that if you did it, it would change. And all the people above you that earn more than you, that produce more than you, that build more wealth than you, that sell more houses than you, they will all tell you the same thing. You've got to have very specific written goals and a formal business plan. The Wharton School of Business calls it a mission statement. Jim Collins at Stanford calls it a big, hairy, audacious goal. Zig Ziglar just referred to goals throughout his entire career. My friend Brian Tracy studied the psychology of the written plan, and Rick Warren, one of the great leadership minds of our generation, calls it a purpose driven life. The Bible even says a life without vision will perish. Yet most people, most realtors, most of you do not have any of those. You don't have a mission, you don't have big, hairy, audacious goals, you don't have a written plan, you don't have a specific purpose or vision for your residential real estate career. And many of us don't have one for our personal lives. And why do you think that is? Just to enunciate this point, this is absolutely a cliche in business. And I think that the reason that acumen becomes so cliche is because everywhere you go, they talk about it. And then it becomes almost, you become numb to what they're talking about. So I worked for a business for 3.5 years that had no written goals. It had no benchmarks. It had no conceivable metrics. It had no fiscal goals. It had no short term goals. It had no long term goals. It had no goals at all. It just had execution of plans that were moving in a direction. And frankly, that company, which I'm sure will go out of business soon, uh, I worked in it in a consulting capacity, and they never took my advice. They never did, unfortunately for them. But this passion and conviction about written predetermined benchmarks and very specific short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals is not something that I'm making up. It's something that the Harvard MBA program studied for a decade. And what they did is they interviewed graduates from the MBA program. These are the highest performers in academic life in the world, Harvard's MBA program, right? And 84% of the graduates of the Harvard MBA program didn't have any goals. 13% had goals, but they just told you what they were verbally. They didn't have them written down anywhere or any kind of a plan. And then only 3% of the Harvard MBA graduates of the 1979 class, only 3% of them had written goals and written plans to accomplish those goals. Then they waited 10 years, and in 1989, the interviewers interviewed the same graduates from the 1979 class 10 years later, and after just 10 short years, the 13% of the class who had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. And the most extraordinary thing, and this just, it's in a book by a guy named Mike McCormack, and what they don't teach you in the Harvard Business School is that the 3%, that same 3% that 10 years ago had written goals and were earning on average 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. Not 10 times what they're earning, 10 times what they're earning put together. So if that doesn't enunciate the power and purpose of written action plans with short, midterm, and long range goals, the death of any organization is when it flounders generally in a direction, but nothing specific laser focused. If we're going to do this together, you and I, the part that you provide is desire. And unfortunately, you know, batteries are not included, right? It's like the battery, the motor, the desire that executes a business plan does not come from the plan, but the awareness and accountability and good fortune of specificity, the good fortune of being specific removes all doubt and removes all excuses. But you've got to say to yourself, where does your real estate license bring you? And the scope of desire will dictate how hard you're willing to work. It'll dictate how much you study. It'll dictate how efficiently you execute, because your white hot burning desire could be for 12,000 per month and $144,000 a year. Or with the exact same license, you could easily desire $1 million a year. and and it the license doesn't care. The real estate market doesn't care, and the universe doesn't care. Your desire tells the universe what you're going to get. You don't ask for permission. You have to want it bad enough that that's what you plan for. So if your goal is to make 8,000 a month or $20,000 a month, the real estate license, the real estate business, and the universe doesn't care. It's just it's what your self confidence, it's what your self esteem, it's what your self image is projecting to the world. I'm only worth 36,000 a year. I'm only worth $80,000 a year. But if you use your gross commission income rather than your net, it'll help, because everybody's got different net, right? How much do you spend on advertising? How much do you spend on leads? How much do you spend on direct mail? How much do you spend on prospecting, entertaining customers? Do you do customer appreciation nights? Do you do any handwritten notes that got to be factored into your gross commission versus your net earnings? And certainly the different elements of residential real estate brokerage splits allows you to design your own net income. So we use gross commission earnings as our business planning metric. So what is it? What is the gross commission income that you need to produce to sustain your net? to be the net that you're looking for. You have to do that mathematics. And if you cannot do that mathematics, I'd probably quit the real estate business right away because it's simple math. How much do you gross? How much do you spend? How much does your brokerage take? How much is your E&O insurance? How much is your National Association of Realtor rip-off dues? And how can you get the MLS for the least amount of money so that you don't have to waste any revenue from your gross commission to net out? So that's your mathematics. The next mathematics you need to understand is what is the average gross commission per side in your marketplace? How many of these will it take to get to my desired gross commission? So, every market's different. Keokuk, Iowa is probably $200,000 houses, whereas Miami, Florida is probably $2 million houses. So there's no way for us to create your average GCI per side in your office. But let's just go with a $7,500 gross commission income per transaction. And let's just easily see how that math works. It's 13 and a half closed sales to gross $100,000. If you're eager to gross $75,000, you'd only have to sell 10 houses. And correspondingly, if you needed to gross 150,000, you would need to sell 20 homes in that marketplace. So you start to see how the gross commission income per side in your office dictates what the number of transactions you'll have to do. I don't want you to get analysis paralysis here. You know, just guess, okay? And then over the next couple weeks, as you're fine tuning your business plan, you can certainly verify. But the simplest plan that I've ever been taught, Walter Sanford, Floyd Wickman, Craig Proctor, uh, everybody, Mike Ferry, everyone just focused on listing inventory. It was just how many listings can you take? Because it's the only number in the business plan that you personally can change. You can change the number of listings that you take. You can't change the number of sales contracts that are executed on those listings. We go with about a 92% of listings taken go to contract. I actually use 80% of my listings will go to contract because I like to be even more conservative, assuming that I killed it with pricing or accessibility or condition, or I did the wrong thing with the location and the price, and I only closed 80% of the listings that I took. That would be terrible, but that's why I expect the worst. I plan for the worst. I do not plan for the best. I plan for the worst. I hope for the best, but I plan for the worst. 85% of all contracts go to closing. That's just something I've learned over the last 37 years selling real estate. If you plan on 100% of your listings selling and 100% of your listings going to closing, then when it doesn't happen that way, you freak out and you cry and you write a letter and you act like your world is crumbling around you. But if you expect the worst, plan for the worst, and hope for the best and aspire to the best, then you're never caught with a right cross on your chin, like bang, getting punched because you kind of guessed that some deals will fall through and some deals will not go to closing. We've given you a detailed business plan prep sheet that you can use directly from our organization. If you can't find it, I'll show you where you can get it here in just a minute. But it'll just take you through some of the simple source of business conversations, sort of percentages, and how you can plan and how, all those things that would help you dissect your individual marketplace and your ultimately your um, projections moving forward. Now, that QR code on the top side of your screen right there, if you scan that, you can come into the Agents in Action Club, and our partners will provide you all of these documentation pieces, anything you need to get the paperwork to build this business plan. But I want you to consider the reality of business planning. Like, some managers refer to their business plan in every meeting. Some leaders refer to their business plan in every communication with every subordinate. Some leaders, like some of the ones that I've worked with in the past, don't have any goals or don't have any specific ideas of how they're going to achieve those goals, and they don't refer to their business plan, or if they do, it changes every quarter. These people are absolutely insane. It's insanity to work with someone who doesn't have any goals and doesn't have any plans and doesn't have any projections or benchmarks or business plan in place at all. But it's even more disheartening for you to personally take the time to build a business plan and then stick it in a drawer. That's more disappointing than not having a goal in the first place. So, what a business plan is supposed to be is a roadmap towards the end destination, the big, hairy, audacious goal. What is the purpose here? What is our why? What are we trying to create? What is it we're trying to do? Is it just a return on invested time number? Like we're trying to get, $2,000 an hour? We're trying to get, 50 homes sold? We want to serve 50 families? Well, then what are the plans? How are we going to go about doing that? But why I stress this frustration that I've had with business planners or lack of business planning, and why I stress when I watch individual realtors put their business plan in a drawer somewhere, it's almost like they wrote their business plan, but they didn't believe in it. Like they didn't believe what they were writing. So, what I would like to empower you to do is to give yourself the ultimate lie detector test before you go stick this business plan in a drawer. Can you do this? Will you do this? Do you believe that these results are attainable, or are you being too conservative? Are you being too optimistic? What could prevent you from achieving this specificity? What could prevent you from achieving this specific result is not the opposite of positive thinking. Rather, it is the Stockdale paradox in full swing. You are aspiring and have an unwavering faith that your plan will prevail, but you also must confront the brutal facts of what could prevent you from achieving this specific result. What will you get if you achieve this specific result? What will you miss? Embarrassment? Will you miss praise? Will you miss love? Will you miss um, freedom if you don't follow through on this? And what will this plan guarantee if you do achieve it? One of the great motivators for me over the last 40 years was my children. It still is, but more then than now. I'm older now. My children are getting into their independence. Uh, but my motivation was I wanted to be able to take my family on wonderful exploratory vacations. I wanted to have glorious holiday celebrations and terrific locations and vacations and give my children an opportunity to experience life. And if I had lackadaisically went through my real estate career and never really fostered an annual plan or quarterly plans or even daily, weekly, monthly plans, that's the thing that a business plan does is it breaks down what are you going to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? How many weekends are you going to work? How many weekends are you not going to work? What are you going to do to earn $700,000? And if you have a plan and you execute that plan, I can promise you the real estate industry doesn't care if you ask it for a million or if you ask it for 100,000 or if you ask it for 30,000. It's your plan. You have to be assertive and tell the industry what you want. You don't wait for the industry to tell you what you're going to get. You go out and force it by force and will and discipline and rigor. It's actual labor, unfortunately. I wish there was a get rich quick scheme, but when you talk to the highest earners, I talked to a lady who sold 200 homes. She did 70,000 pieces of direct mail in a year, right? I got another person who did 120,000 pieces of direct mail in a year. And then I talk to these realtors, they don't even know what a listing appointment is. They don't even know what a listing prospect is. They don't even know how to talk about commissions. They don't know how to do a seller's estimated net proceeds or a relocation analysis. They just take buyers out and drive them around every day. And no wonder they're frustrated and thinking about leaving the business or selling less than a house a month. Top realtors farm. They do direct mail. They manage a sphere of influence database. They prospect absentee owners. They prospect list pendants notifications. They do just listed and just sold marketing around the brokerage listings. Some of them work a niche demographic like equestrian or tennis or the elderly. Others work niche professionals like the Hero Benefits Network, which caters to law enforcement officers, firefighters, and teachers. And niche professionals can be an incredible way to build affinity relationships around the Fraternal Benefits Network, the Realty Benefits Network. If you've never heard of these people, these are nonprofits that cater to realtors who want to serve heroes, uh, first responders, doctors. Um, Even you can do an affinity relationship with Realty Benefits Network with a large employer in your town. I encourage you to get to know Randy and his team at the nonprofit arm of Perk Plans. There's a for-profit arm of Perk Plans, but then there's a nonprofit arm of Perk Plans that offers fraternal benefits networks to police officers and firefighters and first responders, and it's a beautiful way to build a business. Probate cases. If you don't know a probate attorney, you might want to get to know some probate attorneys. And on number 20, you see REOs. I think there's a good chance that real estate owned by banks might come back as some listing inventory in 2024. The most common sources of business share the same tools. On the previous page, we were talking about sources of business, sources of listings. Now we're talking about handwritten notes is a tool in one of the sources of business. Door hangers, door knocking, handouts, giveaways. Like you see these guys doing, Christmas ornaments or pumpkins or Fourth of July flags, managing an email network, and managing newsletters, homeowners association and condo association newsletters, listing packages, reaching out to Airbnb owners that may have an increased equity position but may be experiencing a downturn in their Airbnb income in certain markets. Unique selling proposals like guaranteed offer on your home or sell your house in 60 days. These are the tools and objection handling techniques. You know what breaks my heart? Number 15, most realtors I meet don't even have standard responses for the most standard questions. Like if you go to Disney World, if you go to Neiman Marcus, if you go to Nordstrom, if you go to Ritz Carlton, if you go to Four Seasons, the staff is trained that there's probably 15 standard questions. Where's the restroom? Well, when someone asks you where the restroom is, we don't want you to just point and say that way. We want you to walk around the desk and show them some care and say, if you go right to that picture right there, see that picture? Then take a left. The bathroom's right there on your left. All right, then. And there's a way that great organizations standardize their responses. I dare say that Mark Spain and Lori Reeder and Rob D and fantastic millionaires that have your real estate license but know how to use it, they have standardized responses to how much is your commission. They have a standard response. How long is your listing agreement? They have a standard response. Uh, you know, what commission do you charge? How much is my house worth? Do you have a buyer for my house? These are all standardized responses, and these are the tools of the trade. Yet most real estate agents don't have standardized responses. If you use our business planning template, it's going to say, today you decided you need 19 transactions to succeed in 2024. Do a little gut check. How does that compare to what's true for you or role models in your marketplace? What are those successful role models doing to achieve this desired result? If you're not sure, you can ask people, especially people from other markets. Like if somebody's doing 25 deals a year in Atlanta, but you live in St. Louis, you're allowed to reach out to them and ask them for advice. Do you mind if I ask you a question? You did 20 transactions last year. I only did 6. Can you tell me where you got? They would love to tell you that. Realtors are filled with ego. They love to tell you what they did, especially if you're not right next door to them to compete with them. What sources of business are you willing to participate in fully? Just putting for sale on or expired list pendants or niche demographics or niche professionals on your business plan doesn't do anything at all until you execute without procrastination. What areas will you expand in order to guarantee your desired results? So, what I'd love to start to see you start to sketch is, hey, I'm starting my first year farm. Could I sell 3 houses in my farm area during my first year? Is that reasonable? Well, what are the plans to achieve that within the farm area? In my sphere of influence, last year I did 3 deals from my sphere of influence. I want to get more proactive with my friends and family and the people who know me by name, know me, trust me, like me, and start to really go after them. And I think I could do 5 sales this year. I'm going to buckle down and talk to 10 for sale by owners a week. That'll be 40 a month. If I talk to 44 sale by owners a month, I'm going to hate it. I hate all that anxiety and rejection and fatigue and all the extra questions and fighting with them about commissions, but I'm going to do it 10 times a week. I'm going to do that 40 times a month. That'll be 480 for sale by owners during the course of the calendar year. And out of all 480 contacts that I make during the calendar year using this really cool follow-up system that Agents in Action gave me, there's a for sale by owner follow-up system inside of the Agents in Action Club. You can take your for sale by owners to 1 per quarter, 1 list pendants or 1 expired per quarter, maybe 1 niche like teachers, and you do a couple deals from that. Now, when you do accumulation of 4 or 5 different sources of business, that's how you manifest the gross number of transactions that you need to reach. And for me, having taught 100,000 realtors how to build a business, I would like you to think in terms of what's probable and likely. What's probable and likely, not what's extraordinary. When you business plan for something extraordinary, you're bound to be disappointed. And that's not because I'm a negative person. That's just because I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in an extraordinary basket. I would like to keep my eggs safe in a ordinary basket. So if I had a $150,000 goal, 142.5 gross commission, I might work in my church. I might work in my farm area. I might work expired listings. I might work for sale owners. I might work inside of my sphere of influence. And you start to see that no one source of business is extraordinary. As a matter of fact, each of those 5 sources of business are pretty darn ordinary. I bumped into 3 people at my church during the course of a year. I sold 3 houses from my farm area. I went ahead and buckled down and went after some prospecting work with for sale owners and expireds. And I have my base of my business down there at the bottom as my largest source, but that only made me $40,000. So if I didn't build more sources of business above my foundation of sphere of influence, I'd be dead. Let's take another one look at how to manage your business. I feel like another example would be my Google, Zillow, or Realtor.com lead spend. I personally pay $3.09 per lead with Google. I do not give $55 to Zillow anymore because for $3 I can get the same quality of lead. Geographic farm areas are very productive for realtors all across the country. You got this niche professional concept that's coming up over and over again, where I'm going to become the most relevant realtor to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department. I want to become the most relevant realtor to the Los Angeles Fire Department. And today, I think it's more prudent than ever that you consider becoming a social media influencer and begin to express your leadership, express your humility, express your care through your social media. And if you focus on residential real estate in your social media, you will do transactions from that. So, this sort of source of business chart needs to fit your personality. But there's really nothing sexy about a sphere of influence plan that makes 30,000 a year, is there? No one source in your business plan is producing a result that's extraordinary, but multiple sources of business that are producing ordinary results that are probable and likely. It's almost boring, isn't it? And I would really caution you against boring. You have to do the mundane work in order to get the results. And if you start to think of yourself as a task master and you manage your tasks instead of your results, if the tasks are being done right, if the ISA is saying the right words, if the mortgage banker is saying the right words and doing the right things, if the realtor is saying the right things, doing the right things, executing the right agreements, buyer brokerage agreements, you know, working with a fastidious, credible cabinet of service providers that can do the very best work in the mortgage field, very best work in the title field, very best work inspectors do. And you become proud of your cabinet of service providers and you become a taskmaster rather than managing results. You're going to have extraordinary success in residential real estate in 2024 and beyond. I invite you one more time to join the Agents in Action Club to get any of the documentation that you might be missing. Teaching, we use easy to use templates, nothing crazy. We do training in short modules like the one you did today. As a matter of fact, this one's probably one of the longer ones we do because it's a deep dive into business planning. We offer 3, 6, and 9 week coaching sessions free to all realtors. We've got an entire suite of technology in the Agents in Action platform that is free to realtors. We do this business planning guide once a year in December for every realtor in our group. And if you're interested in pursuing REO listings in 2024, we do have an REO Asset Manager's Guide, and we also provide you counsel on how to make those applications. So potentially consider joining the Agents in Action method, and we will see you at the closing table.